Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Library at a Distance webinar series. This is the third of 3 live webinar events that we're hosting for you, and so thank you for joining us today. My name is Sharon Shannon, and I am the Student Support Services Coordinator for the UGA Office of Online Learning. And in collaboration with the university libraries, we are hosting this event for you today. Our 2 presenters are Diana Hartle. She is the Coordinator of Public Services with the Science Library, and Elizabeth White is the Research and Instruction Librarian for Political Science, International Affairs, and Public Administration. We have a few housekeeping notes for you today. Your audio should be on mute. However, if for any reason it is not, we ask that you mute your audio during the presentation to avoid any background noise. In addition, we have prepared for you handouts of today's presentation. If you look at the control panel, there's a handouts drop-down menu, and you should see 2 documents there. Lastly, we will provide an opportunity for you to ask questions. We do ask that you hold your questions until the end of the webinar to give us an opportunity to get through the content. If you want to enter your questions during the presentation, please enter them in the chat box and/or the questions box, and we will answer those at the end. Lastly, we are recording these sessions, and all 3 of the webinars will be available to you at a later time, and we will certainly follow up with all the attendees to give you direction about how to access those. So with no further ado, I'll pass it over to Diana.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about citation managers, and specifically we're talking about 2 that we have access to through the University of Georgia. Our outline for today is actually pretty simple. We're going to talk about what citation managers are, just in general terms. Then we're going to give a brief overview of EndNote and a brief overview of RefWorks, and then we're going to make sure that you guys have ways to keep in touch with us or get in touch if you have further questions. A caveat I'll give at the beginning is typically an EndNote session is about an hour, the same with RefWorks. So we've really pared it down today to just kind of hit on the high points of these different softwares. But the first thing we're going to talk about is what citation managers are. So in the broadest terms, they're basically just a tool that allows you to store your citation information along with PDFs in your own personal library. So you can download journal article information, book information, all of the things that you'll be using in the papers that you're writing, but whether it's your thesis, your dissertation, or maybe just a paper that you're working for a class. So that's one part. They let you keep track of all of those different things you're citing. The other thing is that it's going to let you pull those citations into a word processor. EndNote works with Word. RefWorks works with both Word and Google Docs. So you can pull those citations in whatever format you need, whatever's being prescribed for the document you're working on. So think APA, or perhaps you're submitting to a certain journal. All of that will be, you could use any of those citation styles with these tools. So remembering that we're just kind of hitting the high points with EndNote, these are the things that we're going to be covering today. So where to download EndNote, how to build your library, how to back up your library, and some best practices with how EndNote is best stored in the cloud, choosing your citation style, and then working with EndNote and Word. Okay, so we're going to go to our library's homepage. So at our library's homepage, we have a whole section dedicated to citation managers. If you scroll down a little bit, you've got this citation styles and software. You can always search EndNote or RefWorks up here and it'll take you to the same spot. So just two different ways to navigate around. We're going to go through this citation styles and software. And you'll see here, not only do we have access to these two citation tools, we also have some information about some of the more popular citation styles. So if you decide that this is a little bit too much, all that you have to learn to use a citation management tool, you can come here and get some nice guides that will help you with some of the more standard styles like APA, MLA, Turabian, and Chicago. So keep that in mind if you need that kind of support. We're going to work under this citation management tools. EndNote is primarily a desktop application. It works best in the desktop environment. So for EndNote to work, you'll have to install it. So you'll see here it says install or update EndNote. If you click on this, it's going to take you to the single sign-on page where you can enter your UGA credentials, agree to some terms that come along with installing software, and then pick the platform that's appropriate for you. We have EndNote available for Mac users as well as PC users. And there may be some compatibility issues with EndNote, so definitely check your operating system to make sure that you install the correct version of EndNote that will work with your operating system. Okay. So you've downloaded EndNote. Remember I said it's a desktop application. So this is what your blank EndNote library will look like. So we're moving on now to building your library. And I'm just going to talk about a couple different ways that you can bring citations and PDFs into your library. One way is if you've already been collecting PDFs somewhere on your computer. We work with a lot of students and faculty who have those folders of PDFs that they've been collecting as they go somewhere on their computer. So a good first step is to try to get those PDFs along with the citation information into your EndNote library. So the process is simply File, Import, and you can do a single PDF or you can do a whole folder of PDFs. And you can even, maybe you've got a complicated file structure where you've got subfolders. So if you had that, you could even include the files in your subfolders. So I'm going to click here and do choose. And I've got a folder on my desktop of PDFs. I'm going to say okay. Make sure that your import option is set to PDF and then do import. So I picked a variety of PDFs when I did this. Some PDFs are born digitally, and that means that their life started on the internet. They have a digital object identifier or a DOI assigned to them. They've always been in this digital format. Those are going to work really well for extracting the metadata that describes those into EndNote. So you'll see here there were 4 PDFs in there, and I've got 4 citations in here, but you'll notice this top one, which is an older article. I think it's actually from possibly the 50s or the 60s. It Oh, I'm sorry, it's from 1928. So even though it is from JSTOR, it does not have a digital object identifier associated with it. So the program was not able to extract all of the information I would need to be able to cite this particular article. Unfortunately, when that happens, really the best thing is just to go back to the information provider where you first found it, whether it's JSTOR or Google Scholar, and re-download it into EndNote and then add your PDF later, because this is not going to give you a correct citation in your Word document. So I'm going to go ahead and just move that one to the trash. But the other ones all worked. So you see it's pulled in the author, the year, the title, the journal, all of that good information. So if I click on one here and go to the reference, you'll see all the information that comes in. We refer to this as metadata because it's data that describes something. So you've got the author, the year, you've got the title, you've got the journal, all of that stuff that'll make sure that it cites correctly when you cite it in your Word document. You've got the PDF attached over here. You can pop that PDF out by clicking on this button. In this view, you have a sticky note tool, so you can add a sticky note. You can even highlight. So you can do some annotations right here in your EndNote program. EndNote can be your one-stop place where you've got all the information about the research that you're collecting. So that's one way to bring in citations and PDFs into your library. Another way is right here within the EndNote portal, you have links to some resources that you can connect to. Not all of these will work, so this is going to work best for those databases that are freely available. And PubMed is a freely available database. It's a great resource for any kind of biomedical research. So today our research is going to be on salmonella and poultry. So let's go over here. We're going to click on PubMed. And so right here in my EndNote frame, I can do a very simple search. So I'm just going to do salmonella in the title, poultry in the title. And that's going to get probably more results than I want. So that gives me 801. I'm just going to bring in 15 of those. Actually, let's just do 10. Just for time's sake. But if you wanted to, you could download all 800 of those very quickly into your library. We see people who have large libraries because they're maybe doing a comprehensive literature review, and they want all of that information that they can find on a certain subject area. Of course, this is something that we can help you with. If you're having trouble figuring out a good search strategy, we can help you navigate all of that. All right, so they're coming in now. So here are 10 articles downloaded from PubMed that have the word salmonella and the word poultry in their title. If I highlight all of these, I can come up here and click Find Full Text. Notice when I downloaded these, it's only bringing in that metadata, so the information that describes the citation. To get the PDF, that's a separate step. I will click on this Find PDF, and it'll go out and attach the PDFs for those that it can find. Over here in this Find Full Text part of the window, it'll give you an idea how that process is going. So it's still searching 7. It found URLs for some. It's found a PDF or 2. As it adds those PDFs, it will put a paperclip in that first column. So that'll be my indication that I do have the PDF of the article. Okay. So another popular way to get citations into your library is to go to one of our databases. So I'm going to start back at our library's homepage. We have the multi-search here, so this is a good place to go and find articles. Almost all of these databases have ways that you can download from the database into your EndNote library. We're going to talk about Google Scholar, though, just because that seems to be one of the more popular information providers. So we'll do poultry and salmonella. So I already have it set to show import into EndNote. If you haven't set your Google Scholar settings, that will not appear. The way to set the settings is with this three lines over here. If you click on that, you've got settings down here. And down here under Bibliography Manager, you can change it. I think the default is BibTeX. Change it to EndNote, and then you're ready to go. So then you can download citations from Google Scholar into your EndNote library. Let's go back to EndNote. I think this is probably finished. So it was able to find 7 of those PDFs. 3 it didn't find, but it inserted a URL, probably back out to PubMed where I could possibly find the PDF. That find PDF option doesn't always 100% represent what UGA has subscribed content for. So it's always good to kind of do your own searching through our library's homepage and see if we do actually have the PDF. Okay, so we've got our library here. We've got 13 references. I would imagine most of you are probably collecting journal articles for your research, possibly books. We do have a way that you can download from our library's catalog. There's a link here to Library of Congress. That's a good place to get book records. There may be some things that you're citing that are not typical. So for those kind of things, you just have to input them manually. And that process is simply references, new reference, and under this reference type, if you drop that down, you'll see all these different types of references that you could possibly use. So maybe you have a patent, maybe you've had a communication with an expert and you want to add that. Typically, the one we see the most common is a web page. So maybe you're citing a web page that has some really good data on it. You're not gonna be able to find the metadata that describes that anywhere in a database. So you'll have to choose that and then fill out the fields to make that create a good citation. And that's something else that we can help you with too. Okay, so that is building your library. So remember, even though we only looked at a couple different ways to add citations from databases, most databases have a mechanism. It's usually under the terminology of export or send to citation manager or something along those lines. And that's again something that you can reach out to us if you've got a certain database you're using. We can help you identify the best way to get the citations from the database into EndNote. Okay, so we've talked about how EndNote is this desktop application. EndNote does not work very well if you're trying to work with your library and you've got it saved on Dropbox or OneDrive or one of these other cloud-based services. Um, if you want to just store your library up there, it's probably okay. But once you start working with the library and you're pulling citations into Word, it's really going to be best to download that library onto your computer and start working. But if you need to have access to your library from a different computer, the best way to set that up is through what they call EndNote Sync. So if I go to Edit and then Preferences, you've got this option here to enable sync. What that will do is create an online version of your library. So you could always go to endnote.com, log in with the credentials that you set up here, and you have access to an online version of your EndNote library. So even though it is primarily this desktop application, you can have access to the library from other computers. Okay, so next we're going to talk about choosing your style. When you first download EndNote, your style selector will probably say annotated. That's kind of the default style when you first download the EndNote program. It's not really a good style. I doubt anybody would actually want to use it because it does include the abstract. You'll see over here, I've got the Borges article. In this preview is going to show me what that would look like in this annotated style. So maybe if you were working on an annotated bibliography, this may be something you'd want to use. But I would imagine most of you are probably using standard styles like APA, MLA, Turabian, Chicago, or you're submitting to a journal. So if you come here and go to select another style, you'll see EndNote ships with about 500 output styles. Most of these are going to be journals. Journals have their own unique way of citing things. If the journal that you're citing to, or I'm sorry, writing for is not included in this list, you can go to endnote.com. At the EndNote support site, they have about, I think, 6,000 different styles to choose from. So more than likely, you can find the style you need to write your paper. For today, though, we're going to just use APA 7th because that's a really standard style. Let's say choose. And one thing I like to tell people is if you know what style you'll be using, go ahead and set it in EndNote. And then what you can do is start at the top of your list over here. And if you go to this preview tab, you can kind of scroll through your citations and see how they look. There will be issues. Sometimes article titles come in all capitalized. Sometimes things that should be italicized aren't. Sometimes acronyms that are supposed to be all caps or all capitalized or not. So all of those kinds of nitpicky things, best to identify them before you start writing. And then depending on what the issue is, you can either edit it over here in this reference pane. So this gives you the opportunity um, to edit something, or you can apply kind of global rules to make things do what you want it to do. Or it could be that the style might have an inconsistency. There's all these different things that could be wrong. Really, this is best to kind of get a librarian involved and we can help you identify what exactly is going wrong. But once you're ready, once you've looked through everything, you've previewed it all in your EndNote library, you're ready to start writing, this is where the magic happens. So we're going to go to our Word document. When you download EndNote, you're going to get a EndNote Tool tab or toolbar, depending on your version of Word, that's going to be your link from your library to your Word document. I'm going to change this to APA. So this is my paper on Salmonella. I've gathered all my sources. I'm ready to start writing. I've gotten to the point where I'm ready to cite something. I've got this insert citation option. I'm going to search the term Salmonella. That should bring up everything in my article, in my EndNote library. I'll choose this Borges article and do insert. So EndNote is going to give you both the in-text citation and then it's going to start your bibliography down below. So it's not just doing the bibliography, it's also going to give you the way to cite it in text. So you can continue to write. Continue to click on this. Maybe now we want the Kowalski article. Do insert. Continue to write some more. And maybe you want the Borges article again. EndNote will be smart enough to give you the in-text, but it won't duplicate it in your bibliography. So it's pretty intuitive about how citing with a certain style works. If you need to delete something, the best way to do that is to use the functions of this toolbar. So if I wanted to delete the second instance of the Borges article, I can do edit and manage citation, and from here, remove it. So anything you bring in to your Word document using EndNote, it's best to use these toolbars up here to manipulate that. That's just kind of a word to the wise because that's where a lot of students and faculty get a little bit hung up and may have issues. So anything you bring out into Word using EndNote, you can edit it or manipulate it up here with the toolbar. So that's a very brief overview of EndNote. I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth, and she's going to do Refworks, and then we'll take some questions at the end. All right, take it away, Elizabeth.
Hello, everybody.
I'm Elizabeth White, and I am one of the librarians here at UGA. Specifically, I am the Refworks coordinator and the librarian for political science, international affairs, and public administration. Um, Today, we are going to talk about Refworks. Let me bring up my outline really quick. Um, Refworks is a citation management software that is similar to EndNote. The biggest difference is that it is in the cloud, which means whereas EndNote you download to your computer, Refworks is accessible from any web browser. This means that if you're go in between computers and you want to have the same functionality on both computers, Refworks is a good option. It also works with Chromebooks because it is completely in the cloud. So if you are using a Chromebook for all or part of your computing needs, Refworks is a very good option. So Refworks is like I said, cloud-based computing citation management software that you have access to here at UGA. The reason you have access to it is that we have purchased a site license for it. If you were to get Refworks yourself, it would cost, I believe, around $100 a year. So you get great value for getting Refworks. Also, when you leave the university, you will be able to take your Refworks account with you. That means that if you go somewhere else or you go into the private sector, your citations will still be accessible and you will still be able to add to them. So first things first, let's start with how to set up an account. Now, in order to set up an account, you will need to go to the Refworks homepage. The Refworks homepage is refworks.proquest.com. And the first time you go to this page, you will need to create an account. To do this, you will click on Create an Account. From there, you will enter in your UGA email address. It must be your UGA email address. If you do not put it in, then Refworks will say it cannot create your account. Refworks validates that you are affiliated with the university through your UGA email address. You will get an email into that address and you will click on it and validate that you are a student. Once you've done that and completed the registration, you will now be able to log in with that email address. And now Refworks, like EndNote, works similarly in that all of your references are added to your Refworks library. And as you can see, as you add references using either Galileo or through PDFs or through Google Scholar, they are added right here. Refworks is organized where you see where it says all references, and up here at the top you have certain functions that we'll go over. But first things first, I'm going to show you how to save a citation from a Galileo database into Refworks. Most of our Galileo databases are able to export your citations into Refworks. So for example, if I was in the multi-search and I was doing a search for original jurisdiction and the Supreme Court, I can search on that, and citations that I find, whether they're books or articles or dissertations, can be saved to Refworks. Someone has already done the work for us by typing all this in. One of the nice things about using our Galileo databases is you do have these filters on the side, for example, to limit by scholarly and peer-reviewed journals. And from there, you can scroll through your results and find something that you would like to save. One thing I like to point out is that a lot of our databases have been around since, have been adding citations for a very long time. And that means that some of the data that has been inputted may not all be the same. You may find differences, for example, in title case, as well as how the information is organized. So you will with EndNote and with RefWorks, we'll have to make sure that the citation information is 100% correct when you save it. That is unavoidable. Human beings were involved. So if you do see something that you're interested in saving to RefWorks, you just click on this link and you will see that we have all this information about our particular citation that we would like to save. And over here, you have the option of downloading the full text if you wish, and you also have a PDF option. Over here where it says export, you would click right there to export it to RefWorks, choose RefWorks as your option, and then just click save. Now, if a new window pops up, which often happens, you can close old RefWorks windows. It will save automatically. Yes, you want to continue exporting to RefWorks, and you always want to choose the newest version. The old version is going away. Now, here's where we get into how RefWorks organizes things. When you do import a reference, you can assign it to a folder. You can create folders. You can also move folders around, create subfolders. There is a default folder called Not in a Folder. That is pretty self-explanatory. These are the references that have not been assigned into a folder. But you also will see a list of your folders. So if you click right here and click on, for example, Final Project, and let's say this is part of my lit review, I can say what I want to do for this citation to go is into my lit review, and then click Import. And once you have saved this information, it'll say, hey, we've saved one document to your library, and let's view it by clicking OK. And notice that over here under last imported, it does tell you the last thing you brought in. Normally this dates back to when you last used your RefWorks account, so it helps you keep track if you're downloading multiple citations. From here, I can click on the citation itself and view what has been downloaded. Now, one thing I like to point out is that over here, you'll notice that this particular citation came in as generic. Oftentimes, older citations and databases will do that, and you can change it so that it actually displays as what it is. For example, a journal article or a book chapter or a conference paper, etc. So if I need to edit this information in any way, let's say that the title case may have been incorrect, or there is information that I would like to add, I could just click over here and say reference type in journal article, pops up, and click save. And now it actually is reading as a journal article. That means that the information that has been downloaded will organize itself the way a journal article needs to be cited in the style I am using. Also, you can attach PDFs. If I click on that edit button again, I can click on add more fields. I can also attach PDFs. I can drag and drop them directly from my database, directly from my desktop on top of this particular area. And from there, I will be able to see the PDF. Then I can edit it. I can add notes, highlight, that sort of thing. Now notice right here, there's a little checkbox that says this is an electronic resource. If you have downloaded from Galileo, it's going to automatically put in a URL that goes back into the database where you found it. And this is great, particularly if you're trying to retrace your steps. However, a lot of citation styles are changing the rules to where you no longer include a URL if it is library specific. So all you have to do is uncheck this is an electronic resource, and that proxy/remote.galib, etc. will not appear in your bibliography. All right. If I wanted to add citations in other ways, for example, I can upload a document. Like with EndNote, you can, if you have a folder full of PDFs, you can upload them directly by dragging them over here under Upload Document. You can also add individual PDFs. And what Refworks will do is it will try and create a citation from that PDF. And then it will attach it. So if you do have PDFs existing on your desktop, or you can have Refworks create citations for them. You can also create a new reference manually. This is often what you use when you have a specific type of citation where it is unique and no one has typed in the bibliographic information yet for it in a database. Great examples of this are works of art or audio recordings, a congressional bill. So in that case, all you would have to do is click on what you're actually citing, and then this form reorganizes itself for what you're citing so you can type it in. So this is a great resource to use if you're going to be citing obscure documents. I've had students who have used this when they needed to cite something that they created. For example, in landscape architecture, if you took a whole bunch of pictures and you needed to create citations for them to insert into your paper, you can do that. In addition, you can attach anything to your citation. It does not have to be a PDF. It can be an image, it can be a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, a data set, etc. Now, RefWorks has a 5 GB limit for attachments. This is not related to the amount of citations you can have, only to attachments. So that would be anything you attach to the PDF, excuse me, to the citation, such as PDFs or Word docs, etc. 5 GB is still a lot of space. That is thousands of PDFs, but there is a limit, so keep that in mind. But the number of citations you can have in your RefWorks library is unlimited. You can have thousands of citations and it will not count towards that space limit. That only figures in with attachments. Okay. Now, once I have citations over in here from my different sources, I can then create folders. I can organize said folders however I wish. See over here where it says folders, I can click add folder, enter in a new name for my folder. I can add subfolders as well, and then subfolders. So you can organize your research however you see fit. You can also search databases such as PubMed and the Library of Congress within RefWorks as you can in with EndNote. Remember that because these are publicly available, they are available to be searched. But for all of our Galileo databases, you will have to use Galileo. Another great organizational feature are tags. Tags are ways for you to create your own subject headings for citations. This is great because if you want to create your own control vocabulary for your citations, you can do so by creating tags. Tags themselves already include the subject headings that come in with your articles, which is nice, and also authors. But let's say you were studying for your written comprehensive exams and you wanted to create your own set of tags that you would then assign to certain documents that would make sense to you, but may not make sense to other people. That's a good way to use tags. You can create your own tags and then assign them as needed. Lastly, deleted. Once you delete a citation, it goes into this deleted folder. You have to empty said folder for the citations to be gone completely. RefWorks makes it difficult for you to accidentally delete things, which is good because once it's gone forever. So if you accidentally delete something, it will be in your deleted folder. And if you clear your deleted folder, then it will be gone forever. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you see up here, we have also all references where I can see everything that I have in my RefWorks library. Notice here that I'm looking at the normal view. If you wanted to view your citations in a particular citation style, this is good for being able to browse your citations to make sure all the data is correct. You can click right here where it says Citation View, and then click on this gear to use a different citation style. In this case, I'm going to use Chicago author date. And notice that it does show me what it would look like in Chicago. Remember, if I don't want this URL to pop up when I'm citing it, I can click on it and then click Edit, and from there say this is not an electronic resource by unchecking it, save, and now it has removed that URL. The URL still exists. It is still in the reference information. It will just no longer be added in your bibliography. All right. You also have the ability to share your RefWorks library. You can share specific folders. You can also share projects. A project is basically the largest way to organize your library. Each project is considered its own all-encompassing group, so you can't transfer citations between it, and it is really useful if you're working on a large project. If you wish to share a folder or a project with individuals who use RefWorks, you can by clicking on this sharing tab, and then over here where it says you can share a folder. You can also make folders viewable within the University of Georgia users, but you would choose the folder and then you would invite other RefWorks users by their email address to then be able to either write or edit, modify, or read your particular folder. This is useful when you're doing collaborative work, and that way you and your group can work on the same citations. Another thing to remember is up here under your name, this is where you can uh, change your settings. I highly recommend this if you're using RefWorks and you're about to graduate to change your email address to a non-UGA email address. The reason for this is once you leave UGA, eventually your email address will no longer be available. And let's say you forget your RefWorks password and you ask for RefWorks to send you your password. If it is your UGA email address, you will not be able to get that password. So before you leave the university, or even immediately after you create your RefWorks account, if you'd rather, for example, use a Gmail email address, under your settings, you can change your name and you can change your email address and your password. So remember, before you graduate, change that email address. All right. Lastly, if you are working on a project and you just wish to create a bibliography just being a list of citations that you wish to either share or edit, click on Create Bibliography, and you can actually create a Word document with just a list of bibliographic references. This is particularly useful if you're doing an annotated bibliography. You would have all of your citations in a list, and then you would be able to edit and add your annotations as needed. All right. So one of the incredibly useful aspects of RefWorks, as is with EndNote, is that you can use it with different word processing programs. You can use it with both Word and with Google Docs, and that is a great thing indeed. To use RefWorks in Word, what you will need to do is open your Word document. Now remember, if you are using a different version of Word, this might differ slightly. Please feel free to contact us if you have questions. But if you wish to add the RefWorks toolbar under Insert in Word and then under Add-ins, you would click on Store and do a search for RefWorks and then add it to your Word document, excuse me, your Word program. Then to view the RefWorks Citation Manager in Word so that you can insert your citations from RefWorks directly into Word, you will then click on My Add-ins after you have installed it. It will give me RefWorks Citation Manager as an option. And then from there, you will notice that your citations are now in a list. You can search, you can also organize everything and look at by folder. So pretty useful. So let's say I wish to write something. I will then click on Quick Cite, and it will insert the citation that I want. Now remember that your bibliography is going to start being inputted. Oftentimes I include a page break right here and put it on a different page. Now let's say that I need to change the page number because I'm doing a direct citation, excuse me, a direct quote. Over here, when I clicked on the citation, it opened up Preview and Edit. And from there, I can say replace the pages with the following. For example, if it was and then just click Insert Citation again, and notice that it did change. For some reason, it took out that, that comma. Now, once you have finished, you can do things like exclude the author, exclude the date. Remember, if you mention someone's name in your citation, your sentence, then you can actually go through and suppress the author's name and the author's and dates, etc. And you can make changes as you see fit. If I need to change my citation style, for example, let's say I started writing my paper in Chicago and I discovered from my instructor they wanted it in MLA instead. Over here under these three little bars, I can change my citation style. Update document, which means let's say I went into RefWorks and I made a change to the actual citation so that it was more accurate, but I wanted it now to reflect the citations in my document. That's what it does. Various things like that. So that is a basic overview of using RefWorks in Word. Of course, I haven't gone over everything, but we will. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Secondly, if you are in Google Docs, you can also use RefWorks. So if I click on add-ons in Google Docs, and then under document, get add-ons, I would click on that and then search for RefWorks. Once I find RefWorks and install it as an add-on, then notice that I have the option of Manage Citations under add-ons. From that place, I will be able to then insert citations as I would like. Now, as I cite things in my document, it looks similar to what I was doing in Word. I click on Cite This if I want to cite something. And if I need to change the page numbers, etc., then I can go through and make those changes. I can also change the style if I need to. And again, I can take my bibliography and put it on a different page. In terms of formatting, right now everything is single spaced. If I just went through and said double spaced, it wouldn't affect RefWorks in any way. And lastly, you can search your RefWorks library if you wish to. Under that little search box, I can search all my references. I can also search under advanced, and I can say, please search in a particular folder. Please search in a particular field. If you do attach a citation, RefWorks does take and scan that citation, scans the full text so that now it is searchable. So when you search it within your RefWorks library, you would be searching the full text of your PDFs as well. All right. So that is the basic of, excuse me. So that is the basics of utilizing RefWorks. That is not everything, and I always like to point out to people that there is a great deal that we have not talked about today, but I do want to let you know that you can ask us for assistance. And in order to get help, you can get help two different ways. The first way is using our training and request form through the libraries. Now these slides are going to be emailed to you. So this is the training request form. This particular training request form goes to the citation management librarians in the UGA libraries. You just simply click on it, fill out the form, and someone will get back to you normally within a business day. If you would rather contact someone directly, please feel free to contact Diana Hartle or myself. Diana Hartle's email is at dhartle@uga.edu, and my email is elizabethwhite@uga.edu. Please feel free to contact us directly if you have specific questions after this training. And thank you so much for attending today.